Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like time has taken something from you? The face staring back at you isn't quite the same as the one you remember. The world moves faster, friendships shift, and the body you once trusted now feels unfamiliar. Aging is a journey full of transformations, and let's be honest, it can feel like an uphill battle. But what if I told you that the real struggle isn't against aging itself? The true battle lies in our resistance to change. I'm from the Tradition Zen channel, and today we're going to talk about something that touches all of us: aging. Buddha taught us that suffering arises when we fight against the natural flow of life. Impermanence, anicca, is not something to fear, but something to understand. We spend so much time trying to hold on to moments, freeze memories, and preserve what is destined to change. But what if aging isn't something to fear, but something to embrace? Today I will share profound Buddhist teachings on aging that can completely shift your perspective on life. These truths are not bitter. On the contrary, they are liberating and filled with beauty. Once you truly understand them, aging no longer feels like a loss, but rather a journey of discovery and deepening wisdom. So stay with me, because what you learn today may forever change the way you see the passage of time. Many people cling to the idea of being remembered forever. However, one of the hardest truths to accept is that we will be forgotten much sooner than we imagine. The work we build, the home we cherish, the stories we share, over time, all of it will fade from people's memories. At first, this idea may seem painful. We spend our lives believing that our actions will leave a lasting mark, but time moves forward, with or without us. Our children become busy with their own lives. Friends walk their own paths, and eventually the world shifts its focus to new stories. Buddhism offers a different perspective on this reality. Buddha taught the concept of anatta, or non-self, the idea that the fixed identity we believe we have is actually an illusion. Just as waves rise and fall in the ocean, we too emerge and disappear, leaving only subtle ripples in the great current of existence. Our goal should not be to remain in people's memories, but to live with full presence in the now. There is an ancient Zen story that beautifully illustrates this teaching. A wise monk lived in a mountain temple, known for his kindness and wisdom. Over the years, many sought his guidance and he helped countless lives. One day, a young disciple asked him, "Master, does it not sadden you to know that when you pass away, people may forget your name?" The monk smiled and pointed to a river flowing beside the temple. "Tell me," he said, "where is the water that was here yesterday?" The disciple hesitated, unsure of how to respond. "It has moved on," the monk said, "yet the river remains." The lesson was clear. What matters is not the name we leave behind, but the impact of our actions. Just as a river does not cling to the water that has passed, we too should not cling to the illusion of permanence. A Zen monk once said, "A single candle can light 1,000 others without losing its flame." The love, wisdom, and compassion you share do not disappear. They continue to exist, not as names recorded in history, but as echoes in the lives of those you have touched. Think about it. Do you remember the name of every teacher who ever inspired you? Probably not. Yet in some way they helped shape who you are today. The warmth of a parent's love, the advice of a friend, the generosity of a stranger, these moments become part of us, even if the names behind them fade with time. So, let go of the need to be remembered. Instead, focus on living fully in the present. Be kind, be present, and allow your actions to create ripples of goodness in the world. That is the true way to leave a legacy. Aging is not about chasing after a name that lingers in history. It's about making every moment meaningful. That way, when your time comes, you can leave in peace, knowing that you lived with authenticity and purpose. The river of your life has nourished many along its path. There was a time when you could run up a flight of stairs without a second thought. Now even a short walk might make your knees protest. The body you once trusted moves with hesitation, reminding you, sometimes quite harshly, that it is not what it used to be. It can feel like a betrayal, but from a Buddhist perspective, this is simply nature taking its course. Just as trees shed their leaves in autumn, the body too must change. The problem is not aging itself, but our attachment to youth. We cling to past versions of ourselves, resisting the inevitable, and in that resistance, we create suffering. The path to peace is not in trying to control the uncontrollable, but in learning to move with change rather than against it. Think of your body not as an adversary, but as your oldest companion. It has carried you through every experience, from childhood adventures to the responsibilities of adulthood. It has healed from wounds, endured stress, and adapted to everything you have asked of it. Instead of resenting its limitations, why not express gratitude for its endurance? Growing older is not about trying to reclaim who you were. It is about caring for who you are now. Treat your body with kindness. Move it with care. Nourish it well. Rest when it needs to rest. See it not as a failing machine, but as a wise and weathered friend. There is a Buddhist parable that illustrates this wisdom beautifully. An aging monk, once strong and capable, found himself struggling with his daily tasks. Where he had once carried heavy buckets of water with ease, his arms now trembled under the weight. Frustrated by his declining strength, he turned to his teacher and asked, "Master, why is my body failing me? It once obeyed my every command." The teacher smiled, handed him a cracked clay pot and said, "This pot once held water effortlessly. Now it leaks. Does that make it useless?" The monk shook his head. "No, master. It still holds some water." The teacher nodded. "And is that not still of value? The water that escapes nourishes the earth. The pot is not as it once was, but it still serves a purpose." The old monk understood. His body had changed, but that did not mean it had lost its worth. And neither have you. Aging is not about mourning what has faded. It is about recognizing what still remains. Maybe you can't run as fast as you once did, but you can still walk. Perhaps you can't lift as much, but you can still carry love, wisdom, and experience. Your hands may tremble, but they can still reach out in kindness. Instead of seeing your aging body as something that has turned against you, recognize it for what it truly is, a loyal companion that has carried you through life's journey. For decades, your body has been your protector, your vehicle, and your constant presence. It deserves your care, your respect, and your patience. So what can you do? Start by listening to your body instead of fighting it. When it asks for rest, honor that need. When movement becomes difficult, find gentler ways to keep it active. When it aches, respond with kindness, not frustration. Your body is not failing you. It is simply evolving. And above all, do not let aging prevent you from living fully. A body that grows weaker does not mean a spirit that must do the same. As long as you have breath, you have purpose. Think of the elders who inspire you, not because they cling to youth, but because they radiate wisdom and peace. They have embraced the changes, and in doing so, they have freed themselves from unnecessary suffering. You can do the same. So, befriend your body, thank it for all it has done, and continue moving forward with grace. As the years pass, you will notice something bittersweet. People drift away. Friendships that once felt unbreakable become distant memories. Family members who used to call frequently now check in only occasionally. Some people will vanish without explanation, leaving behind only silence where there was once laughter. It's natural to take this personally, to wonder, did I do something wrong? Was I not enough? But Buddhism teaches us that impermanence is at the heart of all things, including relationships. People come into our lives when we need them, and they leave when their part in our story is complete. Just as the seasons change, so too do the people around us. A well-known Buddhist parable illustrates this truth beautifully. A young monk once asked his master, "Why do people leave us when we love them?" The master led him to the bank of a quiet river and pointed to the flowing water. "Do you see how the river moves?" he asked. "Each drop of water flows past us, never staying in one place. Some drops travel together for a while, merging and dancing side by side. Others separate quickly, carried away by the current." The young monk nodded, understanding. "People are like that," he said. The master continued, "Some walk beside us for a short time, others for years, but all must keep moving. It is not their departure that should sadden us, but our refusal to accept that their presence was never meant to be permanent." The monk sat in silence, watching the river, finally understanding that love does not mean ownership. Instead of clinging to what is no longer there, Cherish those who remain. Think about it. Have you ever reunited with an old friend after years apart and felt as if no time had passed? That is because the bond you shared was never truly lost. It lived on, untouched by time or distance. Likewise, the people who have left your life did not take away the love or joy they brought you. Their presence shaped you, even if they are no longer around. The love, the laughter, the lessons, they remain. Aging teaches us that relationships evolve. Some fade gently like the setting sun, others end abruptly, like a storm passing through. But no matter how they go, they were meaningful in their time. And remember this, even if someone is no longer present, the love you shared does not disappear. It lives on in your heart, woven into the person you have become. So instead of mourning every lost connection, celebrate the ones that endure. Invest your energy in the people who bring you peace and joy. Value the friend who still calls to check in, the neighbor who smiles when you pass by, the grandchild who listens to your stories. And most importantly, don't close your heart to new relationships. There is always room for new friendships, no matter your age. Life is still offering you moments of connection, if only you remain open to them. Let go with grace, honor what was, appreciate what is, and embrace what is yet to come. That is the way of wisdom. There comes a moment when you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror and realize you no longer look like the person you once were. The skin is softer, the hair grayer, the hands more delicate. Society tells us to fight this, to erase wrinkles, to dye hair, to chase youth at all costs. But what if we saw aging differently? Buddhist philosophy teaches that true beauty is found in wisdom, presence, and kindness, not in flawless skin. Your wrinkles are not flaws. They are the lines of a well-lived life. Your gray hair is not something to be ashamed of. It is a crown of experience. There is a Zen story about an elderly woman who once visited a master known for his wisdom. With sadness in her eyes, she said, "Master." Tears streaming down her face, Kisa Gotami fell at the Buddha's feet. "Please, Master," she pleaded, "give me medicine to bring my son back." The Buddha looked at her with deep compassion and said, "I can help you, but first you must bring me a handful of mustard seeds from a home that has never known death." Hope ignited in her heart, and she rushed from door to door. But at every home the answer was the same. "We have lost a father, a mother, a sister, a brother." As the sun set, realization dawned upon her. Grief was not hers alone. It was part of life itself. Returning to the Buddha, she placed her son's body down and whispered, "I understand now. Death touches every home." The Buddha nodded. "The love you feel for your son, that love does not die. Carry it forward, and he will always be with you." Aging brings many gifts, but also many farewells. The older we get, the more goodbyes we must say. Yet love, in its purest form, never leaves us. Think of those you have lost. Their laughter, their wisdom, their kindness. It still lives in you. When you share their stories, when you pass on their lessons, when you love as they once loved, they remain. In this way, no one is ever truly gone. Grief is not a wound to be healed, but a companion that walks beside you. Some days it will be quiet. Other days it will press upon your chest like a great weight. But remember this, grief exists because love exists. We do not grieve for those we did not love. And love, that is something death cannot take. So when you feel the ache of loss, do not resist it. Sit with it, honor it. Let it remind you of how deeply you have loved and been loved in return. And then choose to live in a way that continues their story. Speak their name. Do the things they once did. Laugh at the jokes they would have laughed at. In this way, you do not lose them. You carry them forward. Buddhism teaches us that nothing is truly separate. A wave may rise and fall, but it is never apart from the ocean. Just so the ones we love may seem to disappear, but their essence remains. In your heart, in your actions, in the love that continues long after they are gone. That love is eternal. And so, even as you face loss, you are never truly alone. Some drops travel together for a while, merging and dancing side by side. Others separate quickly, carried away by the current. The young monk nodded. People are like that. The Master continued. Some walk beside us for a short time, others for years, but all must keep moving. It is not their departure that should sadden us, but our refusal to accept that their presence was never meant to be permanent. The monk sat in silence watching the river, understanding at last that love does not mean ownership. Instead of clinging to what is no longer there, cherish those who remain. Think about it. Have you ever reunited with an old friend after years apart and felt as if no time had passed? That is because the bond you shared was never truly lost. It lived on, untouched by time or distance. Likewise, the people who have left your life did not take away the love or joy they brought you. Their presence shaped you. Even if they are no longer around, the love, the laughter, the lessons, they remain. Aging teaches us that relationships evolve. Some fade gently like the setting sun. Others end abruptly like a storm passing through. But no matter how they go, they were meaningful in their time. And remember this, even if someone is no longer present, the love you shared does not disappear. It lives on in your heart, woven into the person you have become. So instead of mourning every lost connection, celebrate the ones that endure. Invest your energy in the people who bring you peace and joy. Value the friend who still calls to check in, the neighbor who smiles when you pass by, the grandchild who listens to your stories. And most importantly, don't close your heart to new relationships. There is always room for new friendships, no matter your age. Life is still offering you moments of connection if only you remain open to them. Let go with grace. Honor what was. Appreciate what is. Embrace what is yet to come. That is the way of wisdom. You must accept that you no longer look young, and that's a gift. There comes a moment when you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror and realize you no longer look like the person you once were. The skin is softer, the hair grayer, the hands more delicate. Society tells us to fight this, to erase wrinkles, to dye hair, to chase youth at all costs. But what if we saw aging differently? Buddhist philosophy teaches that true beauty is found in wisdom, presence, and kindness, not in flawless skin. Your wrinkles are not flaws, they are the lines of a well-lived life. Your gray hair is not something to be ashamed of. It is a crown of experience. There is a Zen story about an elderly woman who once visited a master known for his wisdom. With sadness in her eyes, she said, "Master, I look in the mirror and do not recognize myself. My beauty has faded. My hair is silver, my skin is lined, I feel invisible." The master smiled and led her to the garden. He pointed at a cherry blossom tree in full bloom and said, "This is beauty, is it not?" She nodded. Then he took her to an ancient pine tree, its bark weathered, its branches twisted with time. "And this?" he asked. She hesitated. "It is different, but there is something dignified about it, something strong." The master chuckled. "That is because you have wisdom. A child may only see beauty in the cherry blossom, but with time we learn to appreciate the pine." The woman understood. Her beauty had not faded, it had transformed. You will see more people you love die, but love never dies. As the years pass, you will experience loss more frequently. Parents, siblings, friends, even children, one by one, they leave this world. Nothing prepares you for that ache. Grief is not something we get over. It is something we learn to live with. But Buddhism offers a powerful truth. Love does not die. The people you have lost live on in you, in the lessons they taught, the stories they shared, the love they gave. There is an old Buddhist parable about a woman named Kisa Gotami. When her young son passed away, she was overcome with sorrow. She carried his lifeless body from house to house, begging for medicine to bring him back to life. Finally, she came to the Buddha. He said, "Bring me a mustard seed from a home that has never known death." With renewed hope, she knocked on every door in the village, but every family had lost someone, a parent, a child, a friend. By the end of her search, she realized she was not alone in her suffering. Returning to the Buddha, she understood. Grief is a thread woven into the fabric of life. No one is spared. Aging means witnessing more loss, but it also means having had the privilege to love deeply, to form connections that matter, to carry forward the spirit of those who touched our lives. Final thoughts. Embrace aging with grace. Aging is not a punishment, it is a privilege. Every year, every wrinkle, every gray hair is a mark of the life you have lived, the lessons you have learned, and the love you have shared. Too often, society teaches us to fear aging, to resist it, as if growing older is something to be ashamed of. But Buddhism teaches otherwise. Aging is not the enemy, fear is. When we resist change, we suffer. When we cling to youth, we lose sight of the gifts that come with age: wisdom, patience, a deeper appreciation for the present. So what will you do with these truths? Will you fight against time or embrace it with an open heart? The choice is yours. But if you choose acceptance, if you choose gratitude, you will discover that aging is not an end, it is a new beginning. If this message spoke to you, share your thoughts in the comments. And if you found value here, subscribe for more insights on embracing life with peace, purpose, and mindfulness. Aging is not the closing of a book, it is simply the turning of a page. And the next chapter, it's yours to write.